Of Tech Time Today. I've been doing a couple of these the past few weeks as I build some content for web using AI in the web browser. So, running AI models in the web browser. And I'm trying to build a couple different things with publicly available open source repos that you can reference and hopefully can help a lot of people. And today I wanted to go over one thing that I was diving to that I thought was really interesting as I was running this transcription model in the browser to convert my speech from my microphone into text. It's working, but I noticed that the download times were slow, and I found a couple of things that I guess were really interesting. And I was trying to look into like how the caching works and everything like that. So I'm going to share my screen and show you a couple things. So let me share my entire screen actually, so that let's see. So hopefully you can see my dev tools. Let me actually just make sure that you can in fact see my dev tools. Hold on a second. Sorry about the thing here. I just want to make sure. Yes. Okay. Great. All right. So I'm logging how long it takes my model to load in the browser, and it says 3.8 seconds, which seems fast, but actually that's cached. And I actually wasn't sure about this until I dove a little bit further into how everything's working. But within the transformers library, I'm using the Hugging Face transformers.js library to load and run a model on the browser side. And it is, in fact, if you look into your cache storage in your dev tools, there is right here where it does cache everything. Um, actually, there. I was trying to find. So you can actually see all the data and files. I mean, they're pretty big. Some of the files that are being cached. When it isn't in the local web browser cache, it actually takes like 18 seconds to download and run the model. So that's like even more. So that is pretty significant. And that's with WebGPU and a bunch of other stuff. So I do think that it's not going to suit all use cases with that much time. I mean, that's a lot of time. Most web users are visit your website and bounce well before that amount of time. So hopefully, I mean, there is a bunch of stuff that I'll talk about in other videos of future things that the browser vendors, Edge and Chrome for Microsoft and Google and other browsers are working on to try to improve that, so to make it more viable, but something to be aware of. But okay, even if it's cached, I thought like, oh, then it should be instantaneous or close to it, but it was still to load initially into memory taking 3.8 seconds, which is still more than I thought it would. I thought it would be well under a second to actually load from cache into memory the model. So I started to look at started to profile it using performance profile. So if you've never used this in DevTools, if you go to your performance tab and hit record button and then perform some actions, then hit stop, it will have basically everything for that happened during that time. And so you could look and see. So in this case, I'm running, in the main thread has your main Angular web app, has most of the code will be in this main process that shows. If you were to dive into this is probably a lot of Angular stuff. Yeah, you can see the app user media.ts. Yeah, that's all from my Angular app. But then there's two other things. I have a worklet, audio worklet, which is doing a lot of the audio processing in my app. So that's like a separate worker thread. And then I'm also creating a separate web worker to do the actual running of the AI model. And you can see all the stuff here. So in the worker, this is what we're worried about, right? Where it's taking a long time. So if you dive into this, the initial time, don't worry about that. That's just once I hit the record button, it took me a second to start the process to actually get things working. So you could ignore this first second of emptiness. So it's really after that. And you could see that there's a bunch of small things going on, which I actually didn't look into that too much. And I focused mostly on this right here, this long running task that takes 2.52 seconds. We saw that from my logging that it's 3.8 seconds. So this 2.5 seconds is the majority of whatever is going on. So then I was trying to figure out how to dive in this. And I'm not an expert on viewing and understanding these profiles, especially a lot of them are, minified JavaScript that it's hard to tell what is actually happening, especially this is from a library. A lot of this is from the Transformers library. So one thing I realized, actually, I'd remembered from a previous meeting that I had with the Chrome team, that they had recently added AI to the profiler. And so this is actually kind of cool that in DevTools, you can right click on a particular thing in the profiler and click Ask AI. And so the nice thing about that is that it gives the generative AI running in your browser all the context it needs, well, as much as it can with regards to profile. I tried before using this feature. You can technically download the entire profile and try to upload it as an attachment to your Gen AI session in ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. But the file is so huge a lot of times that it doesn't really work. So to be honest, I think this is one of the only viable ways to get generative AI help with profiling results like this. So I ask AI, and so in my session, I asked it, uh, why, the context being this specific task, why is it taking so long to run? And so it actually provides some decently useful information. Some of it is obscure because the names of things are minified and not helpful, but other things are. So the thing I got out of this is that, and it tries to give you as much information as it can, but the thing I got out of this is basically this long running task comes from with when you're running the model in the browser. It's using Onyx library from Microsoft, actually, the Onyx library to run the model. And so the Onyx runtime takes a long time to create the session, which ultimately, uh, some part of that may be some just like basic, creating the basic runtime, but it seems like the majority of it is in the runtime loading the model from cache. So, I wasn't. I guess it's not surprising now thinking about it. I didn't realize that it would take so long, 2.5 seconds, to essentially serialize the library, the model rather, into memory. So when you save it in cache, you can't, a model is a complex object that has, weights, but it's also a bunch of different data structures in memory. and you have when you save it to cache, it has to be serialized into something that into binary, and that process of deserializing it um, from the cache into memory is what takes so long here. That and yeah, generative AI isn't always helpful with this type of stuff. Like it's sometimes hard, especially when the context window is so huge. But I mean, this was pretty good. Like this gets into the details, gives you potential bottlenecks. I mean, I'm really so. I guess I'm talking about two different things in this live stream. I'm talking about this app that I'm building for running models in the web and caching and the load times or whatever. But I'm also talking about this new AI tool that I'm realizing I'm using for the first time in Chrome now, with a profile. So if you're a web developer, so forget about running AI models in the web, which is a whole separate thing that um, I'll continue to go into in future videos. But even if you're not doing that, if you're just running a normal web app and you're doing profiling, this new Chrome feature for Ask AI, specifically off of something in the profile is pretty darn useful, and I would definitely recommend that you utilize it. That's gonna be it for today. I don't want to have a let me switch back. Sorry. Uh, Not a long video today. Just wanted to go over that quick thing, and we'll go over more. It's Friday. Got a lot of stuff going on this weekend, so I will. The thing for next week that I'm going to be focusing on with regards to this kind of ongoing project is trying to figure out the best possible user experience with running AI models in the browser, given the constraints and given the fact that it takes these large download times. So the thing that I've been working on that I'm going to actually right after this call, I'm going to check in the latest to the in my GitHub open source repos. It'll have the latest, but is basically utilizing the combination of a model running remotely and locally. So you're running it locally for different reasons, off being able to do it offline, saving money, etc. But at least until the browser's support and capabilities greatly increase, the best user experience has to include a combination of both, a combination of going back and forth between doing the um, execution of the model remotely and locally. And so the thing that I'm going for that I'll get working by next week is when the user initially gets to the browser or gets to your app that's utilizing this functionality, that since it's going to take, for the first time, especially depending on the model, could take 10 to 20 seconds. So during that initial load time, it's utilizing a remote model and streaming the data, remotely. And then as soon as the local model is queued up and ready to go, then it switches to using that. And if for whatever reason there's any problems with that, it can switch back and forth. But I guess that's the key part of it. So I think that would be probably the ultimate best worlds of everything. So anyways, more to come. Thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you again next time on Tech Time Today.